Rising Storm 2, Vietnam. Is it worth a buy? Let's read the words. The beautiful words, guys, of the developer. Red Orchestra series take on Vietnam. 64-player multiplayer matches. 16-player skirmish. M16, M79, Hueys, Blueys, attack helicopters, the AK, double-barrel shotguns, toe-topper mines, tripwires, tunnels, drugs, probably, brutal, authentic, gritty character customization, and napalm in the morning.
They lie to you, G.I.
Shut up, you tart. Yes, guys, we have a brutal Vietnam first-person shooter. You won't find any X-ray vision controller jockeys in this game. This is a man's f***ing game. This is a game for people who know their first-person shooters. This is a game for veterans. This is a game for the skilled. This isn't Call of f***ing Duty. It's not. It's nothing like that. It's not a Battlefield 1. This is Rising Storm. And it's too f***ing hard for me. See, guys, there is a problem with this game. It looks better than it is. On paper, it's a one of them on paper games. It looks, oh my goodness, I'll have that. 10 of them, please, sir, in a bag, discreet. It's one of them games. But when you play it, it's like, it's not really what I thought. Like, you see, guys, Vietnam has always been a fascinating war to play on games. I mean, it was a brutal, horrible war IRL, but in games, it was always quite good to play. I remember playing Viet Cong back in 2003, and I remember Battlefield Vietnam. Fond memories of them games. I think Battlefield Vietnam was the best Vietnam game I ever played, because in that game you had every aspect of the war going on. You had the tanks, you had the jeeps, you had aircraft, you had a vast array of weapons, you had some really nice maps, well designed, you had riverboats, you had villages, you had everything really to make a great... It was like watching Platoon, you know, it was like watching a good Vietnam War film playing that game. This, however, Rising Storm 2 Vietnam is a bit...
You have lost this war, G.I. Your army will leave you behind.
Will you just fucking shut up? This is a little bit disappointing. It's a good game, don't get me wrong. It's a good game, but there's some elements that aren't fun. It's pretty much a dying simulator. One of the problems this game has is it pretty much is friendly fire or nothing. Its friendly fire is on. It's a very hardcore. It's a bit too hardcore. It's very realistic in the sense of the bullet damage and things like that. So dying is very easy, guys. A stray misplaced sprayed bullet will take you out, which is a problem, because in a game like this where cover is just like all over the place and then suddenly there's an open area, you die very, very quickly. You might have a plan with a few of your squad mates to go around the back or hit them from a flank, and you might spend 2 minutes running there, and then as you get reasonably close you'll just get taken out by a sniper. And so you respawn and then you run to the same place again but from a different angle, and you get taken out by some misplaced friendly fire. And so you do it again and you will be artilleried by some idiot who has put in an artillery strike without checking his map first. Then you'll spawn again and you'll run back to that same spot and you'll see somebody and you think, shit, are you G.I? Are you Viet Cong? They're dead. And you're dead again. I often found myself running to a spot on the battlefield and just dying every time, and I think to myself, I haven't fired a shot yet. I haven't actually fired a shot yet, and I've died 6 times. Yeah, it's one of them games, guys. And I thought it was just me, so I started specking the guys who were top of the leaderboard. Happens to them as well. Happens to everybody. Everybody dies a lot in this game, unless you change your whole gameplay. And what I had to start doing was just creeping around and camping. It totally encourages camping, and you have to use your map all the time, which I hate having to do, because you might be in the bush and you're heading towards an enemy location. You press M and you're looking to see if any of your players from your side, any of the GIs, if you're playing the Americans, are in front of you, between you and that objective place. If there is none, you know anything that moves in there's VC. And that's fucking bullshit. I don't want to have to do that every fucking 30 seconds. And I'm having to do that. I'm literally having to check that out all the fucking time as I'm moving forward. Because if you don't do that, when you see somebody, unless you've actually gone to bed and fucked this game rigid, back scuttled it and everything and just sat on its face for at least 2 weeks, then you won't initially know who's VC, who's GI. It takes a second or so to kind of process the helmet shape and all that, because the colours are pretty much identical, guys. And there's no tags, which I'm kind of pleased about, but then I'm not, which I'll come to in a minute. And so you kind of see someone in your sight. Should I open fire? Because friendly fire is always on. Should I open fire? Boom, boom, dead. He shot me before I could get to me map key to check. And I found it very, very frustrating. I found a lot of the time when I was going around, I had no idea, none, who was in front of me or not, without having to check my map. And that is a bad thing in a game like this. You should not have to be checking the map. I remember in, again, Battlefield Vietnam, every single one of your team had a tag above their head. I knew that if you didn't have a tag on your head, I was going to fucking shoot you. And it worked. I didn't mind the tag system. What I hate in games is when the enemies have tags and you have tags, because that just fucks it up for me. I just don't like tags everywhere, because the trouble with having tags on the enemy is you can see them when they are in a bush, and it kind of fucks it up, because it's akin to X-ray vision. You see, but that's why I like Battlefield Vietnam, because the developers had the fucking common sense to say, right, it doesn't matter if you can see your own guys in a bush, because you're not going to shoot them. So we'll take all the tags off the enemy soldiers unless they're really close to you. So you see enemy soldiers moving in the distance, they've got no tags on. So you don't have this like X-ray vision thing, and that worked. Battlefield Vietnam was great, but in this it just doesn't have it. Another thing this doesn't have is it doesn't have any land vehicles. It doesn't have the tanks. I remember the tanks with the ghetto blaster strapped to the side, and you would hear, you know, the tune of Psychotic Reaction just as a tank was coming over in the distance, and you'd hear it getting louder and louder, and it was great. You thought, oh, there's an American tank coming, and it was just so fucking atmospheric. It was great. The soundtrack to this is just as good, but
your government has betrayed
will you just fuck off, you silly fucking tart? What this gives you that you didn't have in the likes of Battlefield Vietnam and Viet Cong is it has amazing artillery and napalm strikes. When you see old footage of Vietnam and when you play this, it's hard to distinguish between the two. It is amazingly atmospheric when the artillery comes down. You see people frying and burning.
These guys are dangerous, G.I. They will napalm you
The
tonight.
friendly fire, guys, is off the scale in this game. I'm sick of it. I'm fed up of being shot. Honestly, I'll tell you how bad it is. If you run in the same direction as the enemy, you will probably get killed. I remember shitting myself because I'd ran too far forward and I wanted to drop back a bit. I was running back towards my own troops and I got shot. And I thought, I'm going to get shot here. And yeah, because people see you running towards them. Oh, he's obviously VC, bam. Because there's a lot of people playing this that are not Red Orchestra hardcore players. I mean, the Red Orchestra players, they're fine with all this. They're used to all this. But there's a lot of people not. And so you've got friendly fire, you've got panic fire, you've got indiscriminate artillery going on in napalm. You've got people just shooting anybody. And it's a bloody mess. That's what it is. And it's a frustrating mess. And at times I fucking hate this game. But then there's times I love this game when you're creeping around on your belly and you're just going through it like a rice field, a paddy field. And you see the enemy in the distance and you just start opening them up. The sounds is brilliant, especially on the big machine guns, the meaty machine guns. It just sounds so good when you're just filling somebody full of lead. And the weapons have alternate fire modes. You can have semi-automatic, which I love to get that bit of accuracy rather than just spray and pray. You got flamethrowers, you got sniper rifles, and every weapon type is limited in the game. For example, you can only have 2 snipers. I'd have took the snipers off altogether. I hate snipers in games like this. It's so fucking awful. You run towards this hut, you'll get in the hut, and you'll say, right, I'm just going to have a look out the window, and bam, dead. Because even though there's 2 snipers, they are just covering like a lot of the points on the map, because the maps can be very, very open. And that is another problem. I don't really like the maps. It's kind of forcing 64 players into certain kill zones, and you can't really get a good flank on them because there's no sides to the map. So you're running out of the game area, and so you're forced down a kill field area where I just don't like. I liked in Battlefield Vietnam, I liked the maps that were much bigger and wider, and they were more well designed. I think I don't like the maps in this game. I don't, not all. Some of them are great, but I don't like all of them. Another thing I don't like about this game is the jumping. It's animated. It's fucking animated. You run to jump over a little tiny 2-foot high pole, and the guy, you'd think he was trying to mount a fucking hippopotamus. It's ridiculous. It's like, get over the fucking fence, you prick. It's just clunky in that sense. The gunplay is good though. I mean, we'll talk about some of the good aspects of the game. The gunplay is great. And the whole control system is great, to be honest with you. I don't have any problems apart from what I've just mentioned on the jumping. You can go crouch, prone. You can change the way the weapons fire. You have bandages. You only have 2 bandages, and then you're going to bleed out if you get hit again, and you will die. The helicopters are dead easy to pilot, which is nice. The pilots are generally good as well. I haven't come across any really bad pilots. You also can form little squads where you get a benefit from your commanding officer if your commanding officer's around. You can also get suppressed, which I love. If the enemies are firing closer to your position, you kind of get a bit traumatized. You get a bit blurred vision, and you have to sit down and like roll around in the corner, clutching your handkerchief and crying for your mother. And then if you do that,
They will give you a medal, G.I., but only after you are dead.
Will you just go f*** yourself, you utter fucking tart? She's right, mind. She's actually right. We do get napalmed, we do get artilleried, and all the rest of it. You actually have a point, love. But I'm going to tell you this, guys. It doesn't have the stupid perk system that unlocks weapons. It's great in that aspect, but it doesn't have any single player content whatsoever other than a firing range. So it's just like maps with players on it. And it's a bit expensive for just a game that has maps with players. I mean, it's not a cheap game. It's £17. Well, that's on special at the minute. It's £18.99. Nigh on £20. Pretty much. Let's call it £20, guys. £20 for a few maps. No single player content. It's a bit steep. It's not for casuals either. I think if you're just like a casual COD player, I don't think you're going to enjoy this. It's kind of like a dying simulator. If you can't read the instructions on the back of a Tesco's ready meal, you're not going to like this game. That's the kind of rule of thumb for Rising Storm 2 Vietnam. I struggle with that. I'm overdue by 2 years to go to the opticians. So my eyes aren't there, and I can't see fucking shit. I'm like Mr. Magoo walking around the woods. Go home, G.I. Sorry, mate. Sorry, But if you are, a young'un who's got his eyes and his hand-to-eye coordination, you're sick of Call of Duty, you're fed up of Battlefield 1 and how it's all got dumbed down and all that, and you really want a hardcore, brutal, tactical game, then get this game, because it is a great game. This is the kind of game that I would have been all over 20-odd years ago. I would have been all over this. I would have been sucking this game off. I really would. But, now I'm just kind of in my rocking chair, and I'm just kind of, I just want to play solitaire. But it's like anything. You just need to practice at it. You need to listen. I'm already differentiating between all the weapon sounds, so I can tell who's in my vicinity by the sounds of the guns. I know that all the gun sounds. You listen for footsteps, and so you can tell when there's people around you. And if you quickly check your map, you'll know whether they're friend or foe. It's a lot of things to do, but when you start doing that, the game does become more enjoyable. I just kind of think that it would be more enjoyable if you didn't have to do all those things. I think the tag system of Battlefield Vietnam would have just totally fixed it. But, people don't want that, I guess. And so that's where we're going to have to agree to disagree on this. But I'm still going to thumb it up because it's a breath of fresh air from all the dumbed down wank that we have been getting. Just a word of warning, it is a dying simulator. Some of the spawning is a bit suspect as well. But other than that, it is a jolly good game. What?
They do not care about you.
You're a tart.